So, welcome once again to chapter 5 of engineering management. And the topic in chapter 5 is managing people and teams. So, the focus of this chapter is on how managers work effectively with people and teams. It covers human relations, conflict management, teamwork, diversity, and the skills managers need to work with different people. So what we need to note here is that a good manager must know how to work with people, manage conflicts, and build effective teams. The expected outcomes for this chapter, at the end of this chapter, students should understand why human relations skills are important guidelines for maintaining good human relations. They also need to understand the causes and types of conflicts, the strategies for dealing with conflicts, the different conflict management styles, conflict resolution, as well as advantages of teamwork. So that when we are done with this chapter, students should be able to understand and manage common people-related challenges in organizations. Other outcomes that students should understand at the end of this chapter is also the stages of team development, the characteristics of effective teams, diversity management, benefits of managing diversity, as well as the concept of Ubuntu, which we're all familiar with. And that will also incorporate guidelines for managing a diverse workforce. So now let's get to it. We start by talking about people skills for managers. Managers need strong people skills to make effect to work effectively with their employees. Some of the important skills that they need. The first one is human relations. So this skill involves communication, trust, positive attitude, open-mindedness, as well as networking. The other important skill is conflict management. And this particular one focuses on the problem and understand different views, agree on solutions, as well as implementing the agreed solutions. The next skill is teamwork. And this involves flexible leadership, cooperation, and information sharing. They also need skills on cultural understanding, which involves respect for different cultures and avoidance of discrimination. And the key idea here is that technical knowledge alone is not enough for technical managers. Managers must also know how to communicate and work with people from different backgrounds. And you'll get more of this in table 5.1 on page 92 of the prescribed textbook. If we look at this table in this slide, there are 4 columns. The first one is on human relations, and it itemizes some of the skills you need under human relations, and then conflict management, teamwork, as well as diversity management. So all the skills required under each headline are listed. Human relations are important because managers need to work effectively with people to achieve the goals of the organization. And good human relations helps managers get the best from the workers, from the employees. It also helps them to meet legal requirements that are related to the employment or the workplace. It's also important to maintain good relationship with customers work effectively with suppliers, build relationship with international business partners. And good relations helps an organization in a general sense to achieve its goals and also maintain strong business connections. So under human relations, you have skills such as communication, trust building, positive attitude, open-mindedness, appreciation, and networking. To manage conflicts, the steps are listed and those will be explained in more detail later. But those steps include problem definition, collecting information. You focus on the problem, not on the people. You involve good communication, understanding of both sides, consider options, agree on the solutions, then implement the agreed solution and do follow-up action. To work effectively as a team, teamwork requires clear objectives, openness, trust, and support, cooperation, information sharing, consensus, flexible leadership, review teamwork, interpersonal relations, individual development, mutual help, needs of individuals, tasks, and team integrated. And to manage a diverse group under diversity management, it requires open communication, multicultural respect, that's respect for different cultures, non-discriminatory behavior, representativeness. You celebrate diversity. You also are aware of the need for sensitivity, understanding, and trust. Now let's talk about human relations itself. Why human relations? And some terminologies that we're using here, or abbreviations like LRA, that simply means Labor Relations Act. SDA is a Skills Development Act, and EEA is the Employee Equity Act. So, human relations is important to mobilize people to achieve goals. In other words, you want to be able to get the most out of staff members. So, managers can maintain good human relations by we're still talking about the why. The other one is that they need to be compliant to relevant laws, acts, and legislation. The law emphasizes human relations, so managers need to be compliant, and also liaison with customer satisfaction and needs. Also liaison with suppliers, so good human relations is important for you to connect well with your suppliers to get the right goods and services. And if you are involved in an organization that does business internationally, you also need to apply the principles of good human relations to liaise with your worldwide business partners to establish good contacts and build partnership. So what are the guidelines for sound human relations? There are a few of them. So communication is one, trust, positive attitude, open-mindedness, appreciation of efforts of employees, as well as networking, both internally within the organization and externally as well. Great. So let's talk about conflicts. Yesterday in class, we did ask a question, what are the causes of conflicts? And we got some answers, so let's review some of them. So what can cause conflicts? Common causes of conflicts include communication breakdown, especially when there are wrong assumptions that are not clarified. Personality clashes can cause conflicts, unfair managerial practices or employee behavior, can result to conflicts. Autocratic management styles, lack of resources, and cultural differences can all contribute to conflicts in the workplace. There are different types of conflicts we're exploring, so let's have a look at them. The first one would be intrapersonal conflicts. Intrapersonal conflicts occurring within a person, within one person, such as when someone cannot decide between two equally attractive options. So you are between and betwixt, not knowing which way to go. And then the second type of conflict is the one that involves other people. So that's interpersonal conflict. And that is conflict that occurs between two people who have different opinions. And then we have the third one, which is intergroup conflicts. And this takes place between three or more people, or such as a union confronting an employer on salary increase on behalf of its members. So these conflicts occurs between groups of people. Okay? And the typical example is when the unions are involved. So an easy way to remember these three types of conflict: intra equal to within yourself. Interpersonal means between people, between two peoples, for example. Then intergroup is conflict between groups, such as when the unions are involved with the employers. There are different strategies that we'll look at for resolving conflicts, conflict strategies. To mention three of them, the first one here is the win-lose strategy. Win-lose strategy. In this strategy, one party achieves its goal at the expense of the other party. So one party wins, the other loses. The problem is that the underlying cause of the conflict may not be resolved. The losing party may become resentful and can cause the conflict to return because they're not happy yet. So they haven't gotten what they want. So that's a win-lose strategy. It's not the best. The other one is the lose-lose strategy. In this second strategy, lose-lose strategy, neither party wins. Neither of them achieve a satisfactory outcome, and everyone loses. So these strategies may end in immediate disagreements, but will not necessarily solve the real problem. Now let's look at the next strategy. And this next strategy is the win-win strategy. And this win-win strategy aims to find a solution where both parties benefit, both are winners. Okay? So they're able to reach a common ground. So for it to work, the parties need a clearly defined problem. They need open communication, trust, and commitment to finding a workable solution. So the key idea here is that the goal is not to defeat the other person, but to find a solution that works for both sides. So that at the end of the day, each person lives with something and they're both happy. So that's the win-win strategy. And I think that's the best strategy in conflict resolution, which should be adopted as much as possible where possible. There are other conflict management styles. So we've talked about the strategies. Now we talk about conflict management styles, styles that managers can employ in resolving conflicts. One of them is avoidance. So avoidance is when the person avoids dealing with the conflict because It may seem too minor or too difficult to handle, so you tend to avoid it. Oh, let's not go there. Let's not talk about that. Let's just sweep it under the carpet. Things will sort themselves out. Well, the conflict may remain unsolved and return later because things don't just disappear because you sweep them under the carpet. The next conflict management style is competing. Here, a person believes my view is correct, so it's my way or the highway, and they use their power or authority or aggression to resolve the conflict. Well, as much as avoiding a conflict does not necessarily solve it, competing may create a winner but damage relationships. Okay, so competing may not always be the best style for managing conflict. Now let's look at the next one. Compromising. So compromising is like a give and take. Give and take. Both parties negotiate to reach a common ground. Let's reach a middle line. Say, please meet me halfway. So each one is shifting their position until they reach a workable solution agreeable to both parties. So both parties give and take and negotiate until they reach a common ground. And then we have the next strategy, which is accommodating. Accommodating simply means giving in, right? An individual neglects their own interest to satisfy the other party's interest. So one person gives in and places the other person's interest ahead of theirs. Because maybe they want to avoid conflict, they want to avoid trouble, so they just surrender and succumb. The simple distinction is that in compromising, both sides give something. They meet each other halfway. But in accommodating, only one side gives in. So it's like winner takes all, kind of. It's more like the win-lose situation. Okay. So let's delve into some guidelines for conflict resolution. Guidelines for conflict resolution. To resolve conflicts effectively, you need to first define the problem and identify the real cause. You don't come in looking for who to blame, but you are approaching the problem head on. Collect the necessary facts, all the facts relevant to the problem. Focus on the actual problem, not individuals. Communicate with the other party. So you need to communicate to the other party and try to understand the other person's viewpoint. So your view is not one-sided. You're being objective by listening to all sides in the conflict. Consider all the possible alternatives and then agree on a solution. Once you've agreed on a solution, implement that solution and then do a follow-up action. So the key idea here is that you don't rush to blame people. You first need to understand the problem and then work together to reach a workable solution. Now let's talk about teamwork. And we start by looking at the advantages of teamwork. Teamwork provides several benefits or advantages. For instance, teams can solve complex problems because the different members bring different knowledge and skills and different perspective to problem solving. Good teamwork can also prevent problems. It can improve job satisfaction, right? And team members can stand in for one another because they understand each other's work. So in teamwork, group decisions can be better because, like they say, two heads are better than one, or two good heads are better than one, because several people contribute ideas. So the sum of the whole is better than, individual ideas, but when you combine it together, you 10x or you multiply the sum of the total ideas put together. Team members may have a higher level of commitment. So with teamwork, the quality of group decision is much better. The general idea is that a well-functioning team can achieve more than individuals working separately. So in your group assignments, make sure you do proper coordination in your team and that everyone contributes their skills and expertise and knowledge to come up with a good assignment that will give you guys high marks. So now we look at the different stages in team development. Teams generally develop through 4 stages. So we have the first stage, forming. That's when you form the team, when you've identified the need to work as a team. Here, people come together because there is a need to work as a team. The second stage is storming, where you do your brainstorming, your dialogue, and well, sometimes at this stage, conflicts may develop, but you walk through the conflicts and have them resolved speedily so you can push forward. So members begin discussing ideas, and disagreements or conflicts may develop, but yes, you are able to resolve them earlier on. And then the next stage is norming, involving cooperation and development of the ground rules for working in the team. So members cooperate and establish the rules and ways of working together. And this is where you assign roles and tell each member what the group dynamics will look like, what is acceptable, what is not, what the boundaries are, and how you need to work together to achieve success within the team. And the fourth stage is performing. Performing. So the members have mutual goals and start working as a team. So they have the common shared goals and they work effectively as a team. So we have forming, storming, norming, and performing. These are the 4 stages in team development. Now let's talk about self-managed work teams, or SMWTs. The central principle behind self-managing work teams is that the team themselves, rather than managers, take responsibility for their work, monitor their performance, and alter their performance strategies as needed to solve problems and adapt to changing conditions. So this is a definition by Wagerman. In addition to the advantages of teamwork listed above that we've discussed, the running of an organization's day-to-day activity by means of SMWT can achieve certain objectives. For instance, it can enhance the company's performance because those close to the customer and are best able to respond to customer demands have the authority to meet those demands. It can also enhance organizational learning and adaptability, as well as enhance employees' commitment to the organization. What are the 7 roles of each self-managed work team member? Let's have a look at that. Members of a self-managing work team, or SMWT, can perform different roles. And the roles include someone acting as a problem solver, in which case the person helps identify and solve problems. Another one can act as a trainer to help other team members develop skills. Then we can have decision maker that participates in making decisions. We can also have a customer advocate that represents or considers customer needs. And then we can have a team player that cooperates with other team members. Then we have a resource provider that helps ensure that resources required to work effectively in the team are available. Then we have skilled worker that contributes technical or practical skills. And then we also, so skilled worker contributes technical or practical skills. So all of these team members may have different responsibilities, but everyone contributes to the success of the team. Let's look at the attributes of effective teams. Effective teams have got clear objectives and goals, and everyone knows what the team wants to achieve. Effective teams exhibit openness, where members communicate openly and honestly. They're open with each other. Effective teams have got trust and support. Members rely on and help each other. They support each other. In effective teams, there's proper cooperation where members work together and open information sharing. So there's also constructive conflict where disagreements are used to improve ideas rather than damage relationship. So all of this you will find as attributes of effective teams. Effective teamwork depends essentially on clear goals, trust, cooperation, and open communication. There are other attributes of effective teamwork that we can also consider. These are regular performance review to enhance the teamwork. Leaders exhibit flexibility in leadership approach. Sound interpersonal relationships are maintained. Ample opportunity is available for personal growth and development. Group members or team members provide mutual help for successful goal accomplishment. And leader or the team leader creates a balance among the needs of the task, the needs of team members or the team, and the needs of individuals within the team. So there's a balance between the tasks that need to be done and the needs around that, the needs of the team as a whole, as well as the needs of individuals. Creating that balance is a very delicate skill. Okay, so that's it for teamwork and its attributes. Now let's talk about diversity and diversity management. Diversity management means recognizing and effectively managing differences among people in the workplace. And things to consider that pertain to differences may include different cultures. And even here in South Africa, people come from different cultures and speak different languages and different perspectives and different age groups or age gaps, and then marital status, different social class, disability, race, gender, religion, language, sexual orientation, etc., etc., etc. So a diverse workforce includes people with different backgrounds, different experiences, different beliefs, different cultures and languages, identities, and perspective. Are there any benefits to diversity management? Let's have a look. Effective diversity management can provide several advantages. Amongst them, you have greater creativity, more flexibility, more effective managers, better competitiveness when serving diverse customers, reduce destructive conflict, better relationships, and higher levels of trust. Diversity can become an organizational strength when these differences are respected and managed effectively. So let's identify some guidelines for successful diversity management. To be effective as a manager in diversity management, managers can manage diversity successfully by communicating openly about diversity issues, creating an environment that respects all groups, not tolerating racism, sexism, or similar discrimination, including diverse groups in meetings, conducting diversity workshops. So you initiate those diversity workshops, understanding the organization's employment equity policy, and ensure that they are properly implemented. So diversity management requires respect, inclusion, fairness, and open communication. There are other guidelines to consider as well in diversity management. For successful diversity management, managers should also consider diversity when employing people. So you place an emphasis on diversity and then seek to meet the needs of all employee groups. So here you're trying to meet the needs of different employee groups, provide training to designated groups, ensure internal and external communication represents different groups. With overseas negotiations, study their culture. When you're working with overseas partners, people from other countries, learn and respect their culture. The key takeaway here is that successful diversity management must be reflected in recruitment, in training, in communication, as well as in international business relationships. So let's try to summarize all that we have learned in this chapter so far. I have created a table that provides a quick revision summary. So on the one hand, you have the topic, and on the next column, what should they need to remember? With people skills, you need to remember communication, trust, positive attitude, openness, and networking. And these are important people skills. Understand that human relations help managers work effectively with people. That's what it boils down to. And then in terms of conflicts and their causes, you have communication problems as part of the causes, personality clashes, unfairness, resources, and cultural differences. So when there are not enough resources and there are cultural differences, those could result in conflicts. Intrapersonal conflict is conflict within one person. Interpersonal conflict is conflict between two people. And intergroup conflict is conflict between groups. There are different conflict resolution strategies or styles. The first one is a win-lose, where one side wins at the expense of the other. The second one is lose-lose, where both sides lose. There's no winner here. And then we have the win-win strategy, where both sides work towards a beneficial solution. They meet each other halfway, and everyone walks away with something they're happy with. And then we have compromise, where both sides give in, they give and take. So you meet each other halfway. You shift your goalposts until you reach a middle ground where everyone is comfortable. Accommodating is where one side gives in to let the other side win. And then we spoke of teamwork, which combines skills and knowledge to achieve goals. Then team development, which includes 4 stages, and the stages are forming, storming, norming, and performing. And so we said effective teams must have clear goals. There must be trust, good cooperation, as well as constructive conflict resolution techniques. And then we spoke of diversity management that involves respect and effectively managing differences within groups. There are some benefits to diversity, and they include creativity, flexibility, competitiveness, better relationship, and trust. So I'm summarizing this by giving you an easy memory guide. You can use the letters HCTD to mean H for human relations, which means build communication and trust. C for conflict, you need to understand, communicate, and resolve. T for teamwork, you form, develop, and work together. And D for diversity, which involves respect and includes different people. So the overall message in this chapter 5 is that a successful manager does not only manage tasks, they must also learn how to manage relationships, resolve conflicts, build effective teams, and create an inclusive workplace environment. So this concludes chapter 5, and based on our objectives or outcomes of chapter 5, students having gone through the chapter should now be able to explain people skills for managers, human relations, causes and types of conflicts, conflict resolution strategies and management styles, conflict resolution, benefits of teamwork, stages of team development, roles of SMW team members, characteristics of effective teams, diversity management and its benefits, guidelines for managing a diverse workforce. And the final takeaway in this chapter is that effective managers must be able to build relationships, resolve conflicts, develop teams, and manage diversity so that people can work together successfully to further the goal and objectives of the organization. So that is the end of chapter 5. I will now pause for questions and comments.